folks, it's Jeff here. Just a quick reminder, if you're loving Disney Coast to Coast, there are a couple of easy ways that you can support the show. We'd love it if you could rate and review us on iTunes, or wherever you listen to the show. This is a simple way to help other Disney fans find us. Also, go ahead and share your favorite episodes on social media and be sure to tag us. You can find all of our social media information at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. And finally, I just want to say thank you to all of you who listen every week. Your support is very appreciated, and we love that you're enjoying our Disney geekiness. Now on with the show.
Are you craving a trip on Space Mountain? Well, we've got the next best thing. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePaoli, and today on the show, I have my friend Brandon from the Happiest Blog on Earth joining me. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome back to the show. It's been a while for you. How's it going?
Good.
Excellent. Well, we are here for a Disney movie review today because, as any good Disney fan knows, they had a pretty big opening this past weekend for Incredibles 2, so let's jump to that movie review right now.
Grab some popcorn and silence your cell phones, because it's time for the Disney movie review.
Now, before we jump into Incredibles 2, I want to talk to you for a moment about the original Incredibles from way back in the day, 2004, which is 14 years ago, which is crazy. But I'm kind of curious, there are like rabid Incredibles fans out there. Like, people love this movie. So I just kind of want to know, where do you stand when it comes to the Incredibles?
Yeah, so I was 6 years old when Incredibles 1 came out.
Kill me.
So I saw it in theaters, and it was like one of the first Pixar, like specifically Pixar movies that I remember like seeing in theaters. Like branded Pixar, like not a Disney movie, like a Pixar movie. Like that was the first one that I like vividly remember seeing.
Okay.
And it's funny, The Incredibles, the first one was always that movie that like every single friend that I've like grown up with, like that's the one movie that we've all seen. Like out of every Disney movie, out of every Pixar movie, The Incredibles is always the one like in school that we could talk about, like that like all of my friends have seen and like have loved. And like it's one of my favorite Pixar movies, if not my favorite Pixar movie ever.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know if it's because I grew up with it, or just because I think in my area, and I don't know if it's like an area thing or what, but like in my area, everyone loves The Incredibles. Like adults, parents, like...
I was going to say, there's obviously some sort of universal appeal with it because people love it, and a lot of people love it, and a lot of people do say it's their favorite Pixar movie. It doesn't even like crack my top 5, which is why I find it so... like people love it, but once again, people love superheroes in general, so I guess it shouldn't surprise me that much how much people love it. But I remember seeing it in theaters and thinking, yeah, that was fine, like I enjoyed it, but never really being a super fan of it. And then the sequel comes out and people just kind of lose their minds. Oh my God, thank God it's finally here. And it kind of just reminded me how much people love The Incredibles, to the point that I was like, okay, I need to watch this original movie again before I go see the sequel, because I have basically no memory of it. Like, it just didn't leave an impression on me. So I am curious, did you, like, soon before seeing the sequel, did you go back and watch the original film?
Oh yeah, so my friend and I watched the first one and it ended about an hour before we went to go see the second one.
Okay, cool.
So I watched it the same day, so like I literally got like the full story, because the second one picks up right where the first one left off.
Which was surprising to me. Well, actually, here's the funny thing. So I saw, what was it, like the first 5 minutes of the film at one of the parks. I forget where they're showing it. Where are they showing it? Are they showing it in the Tomorrowland Theater or something like that? They're showing it. No, that's Ant-Man. It must have been a DCA. I saw like the first 5 minutes of the film, and this was weeks ago. And because I didn't remember the original film, I didn't realize that like the first 5 minutes is essentially the end of the first movie, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then I watched the original film the day before going to see Incredibles 2, and I'm watching this and I was like, oh, all right. And all I can say is thank God I watched the original. I feel like, not that you would have been lost not having seen it, but you get so much more out of
Yeah.
Incredibles 2, having seen the original film so close before.
Yeah.
So and it was a little bit, for some reason I thought the characters had aged a bit, like the kids had aged a little bit. So I thought it was, like I said, I didn't remember The Incredibles all that much. So I kind of made up things in my mind of what I thought the sequel was going to be. And it wasn't that at all. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to get your opinions on the original. So you were a super fan of the original. Let's talk about the short before the movie first, though, that I think was pronounced Bao, B-A-O. I think you call it Bao. This was perhaps the weirdest Pixar short I've ever seen in my life.
What in the world? What?
So this,
where do you even begin?
So this woman essentially makes a dumpling and then decides that it replaces her son that has left her. And
is that what happened?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Was it a woman? I didn't even know it was a woman.
At the beginning, I didn't think it was a woman.
I didn't either.
At first, I thought it was that old man's son.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, I'm like, oh, okay, she's wearing earrings. I'm like, okay, this is a woman who, she makes this dumpling, and for some reason, I guess it comes to life in her mind. And she takes care of it, and it ages, and you see it going through the natural aging process of, when you're a baby, you need your mom, and then as you become a teenager, you're revolting and eventually leave the home. And right as this dumpling baby child, it starts to leave the home with a girl, she eats it.
What? What?
Yeah, it was weird.
Just what?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, I love Pixar shorts. Like, my favorite Pixar short ever is Lava. That was before Inside Out in, 2015?
That is a very controversial statement you said. I love Lava. I'm one of the ones who love it. A lot of people think Lava is, like, the worst Pixar short.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I don't know.
A long, long time ago.
Oh, it's so good.
It is so good.
It's so good.
Yeah. It's better than Pow, that's for sure. Bow, whatever.
I just feel like we go from... I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they have they're on a very roller coaster type of a ride with their shorts sometimes, because there's years that I like love their shorts, and then there's like the next year and I'm like, what did I just see?
Yeah. This was definitely kind of a what did I just see thing, but I do, as I was watching it, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to go well. She's going to end up eating this dumpling at some point. And she did. And then after she eats it, of course, she cries, and eventually, like, the real son comes back, and it was all symbolic of her missing her son.
She's like eating rolls the whole time. Like, what is in that box that she's eating? Do we know?
Donuts.
Oh, but there's no hole.
I think those are donuts. I could be wrong, but
it
looked like a donut box to me. It was a weird short, is all I'm going to say. It was a little jarring to me. So that was before Incredibles 2, but Let's jump into Incredibles 2, and I will say there are potentially spoilers coming up here, so if you haven't seen it yet, perhaps you should hit pause on the podcast and come back if you care about such things. But I am very curious now, since you are a diehard original Incredibles fan, how did you like Incredibles 2, and in comparison to 1 as well? How did you like it?
I have to say that I actually really enjoyed it. Like, the entire, 1 hour and 58 minutes, I really enjoyed it. And I have to say, too, so before I went to go see Incredibles 2, that I didn't even tell, because I have Movie Pass, and so I used on the app to get my ticket. I didn't tell anyone. My friends and I got our tickets. And then later, my mom goes, "Are you seeing Incredibles?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, I have tickets." I was like, "Were you gonna invite me?" Like, that's what Incredibles is around here. It's this thing that everyone went to go see. My parents saw it without me and didn't even invite me to go see it. Anyways,
well, what else do you have to do in Kansas, really? I mean,
there's cows to tip. There's tornadoes to run from. Lots of stuff. But no, someone's gonna probably scream at me now for saying that, but I live here. It's okay.
Yeah, you're a Kansas boy. You're supposed to stick up for the state.
I love the state. It's just
not wrong. Cows and tornadoes. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, no, I really loved it, and yeah. I loved it, and the coolest part of the whole thing to me is that it's like one continuous story, like from the first to the second, and it just like blended so well, like literally picking up like even there was overlap even where the first one left off, and I thought it was so cool that the story writers and that Brad Bird was able to do that. I think that's so cool. I don't know. That was just the coolest part of it.
But it makes me say, okay, why did we have to wait 14 years for it?
Yeah, and that was another thing. But I will say that like I feel like the hype has just built up so much that like it's working for them as far as like
because
box
they
office.
broke some records, didn't they?
Yeah, so it's already the second biggest ever June debut for any movie, not just animated, only behind Jurassic World. It has grossed $180 million in North American theaters, and it's the biggest opening ever for an animated film. So bigger than Frozen, bigger than Inside Out, which were the previous two films that held that. Not to mention it's certified fresh, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. So like it's getting really good reviews, and everyone is going to see it. So.
Yeah. Now I will say, as a person who was not a diehard fan of the original film, although I did enjoy it, it's fine. It just wasn't one of my favorites. I thought Incredibles 2 was like considerably better. Like if I gave Incredibles like a 6 rating, I would give Incredibles 2 like an 8.5. Like I thought it was a lot better than the first one.
I agree with that actually. Like that I considerably liked the second one more than I liked the first one.
Yeah, so
which is saying something because I really liked the first one.
Yeah, considering how many people, and that's what I keep hearing is, oh, the second one's even better, which is crazy to hear because people love that first one. So good on them. Hey, they took the 14 years and they put some real thought into it, so that's great. Now it's interesting, we keep talking about this overlap from the end of the first movie into the beginning of the second movie, and the question here, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, although I haven't researched it, is did they reanimate it? And I would think, yes, they had to, because in 14 years, computer technology has gotten a lot better. And also, my guess is, if I watched the film side by side, they're probably edited differently from different angles and such. Do you happen to know whether or not I'm right or wrong about this?
Yeah, so I was actually looking up like random facts about Incredibles 2 because I'm a dork, and they did reanimate it. So like the scene where she like fumbles up the steps, as that what's his name is trying to ask her out on a date. Anyways,
the boy, yeah,
yeah, the boy.
That was from a different angle. I recognized,
yeah, and that part was reanimated. I know, and like the part also in the parking lot. It's even cool too because like where the first one ends, like in the parking lot with them like walking out with I think Jack's like on his dad's shoulders, I think. And like right after that in the second one, I would be interested to see like them like stitched together because there's a scene in the second one where they're back in that parking lot and that boy sees Violet like as Violet.
Yeah.
Like Incredibles Violet,
yeah.
I guess you would see. She doesn't have a superhero name, I guess.
No, she does. She doesn't she? No, she's just Violet.
I think the kids are just their regular names.
No, because Dash has a different name.
That's his name.
Well, he has the longer name. Now it's going to drive me crazy. Let me IMDb this real quickly because it's going to drive me nuts. But yeah, it is interesting. Like, definitely in 14 years, that's a considerable amount of time for to pass when it comes to the always growing and changing technology used to make animated films. It's kind of crazy, I think. But let's see. We got the Violet par. So Violet is simply Violet. Dashiell Parr, Dashiell Parr is his real name. Dash for short. So yeah. So I guess
I didn't know that.
Yep. So Jack is actually performed. I thought they recorded baby sounds, to be honest, because it sounded so good, like just sounded like a baby.
Yeah.
It's actually this kid actor who, he's not like a baby, but he's a kid, and wow, that's pretty incredible. Ha, no pun intended. But I totally want to go on a little tangent here for a second, just because we were talking about the beginning of the first movie going and leading directly into the the end of the first movie leading directly into the beginning of the second. And this just made me think of Back to the Future Parts 1 into 2. Have you seen those films?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting as well because for the longest time, I actually didn't realize this, but one of the actors is replaced. The actress who plays Michael J. Fox's girlfriend in those films is a different actress in Back to the Future Part 1 versus Back to the Future Parts 2 and 3. So that whole end sequence from the end of Part 1 had to be reshot with the different actress.
Oh.
And I never knew it for the longest time because they did such a great job matching it that I never knew that it was reshot. And it's reshot slightly differently. But this is kind of, I mean, they essentially did the same thing with Incredibles 1 and Incredibles 2. So I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, and it's interesting you say that too, because the voice actor for Dash is different from the first to the second.
That. Yeah. Because Violet is performed by an adult female. So that was fine. But the young boy Dash, who perhaps some of my favorite line deliveries, like so funny.
Yeah, but we saw the kid at the D23 Expo. We were introduced to him, and the girl that plays Violet was discovered on This American Life podcast. She was being interviewed, and Brad Bird heard her and called her in for not even an audition. Really, it was just like, come say these lines, and then that's how she was found. So, fun fact of the day.
Fun fact, I like it. That could have been a good trivia question, Brandon.
I thought about it.
That's okay. So this film to me felt very politically charged. Do you?
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
A lot of political comments in this, which I thought was kind of interesting. I mean, number one, there was the whole feminism girl power thing going on where it's like, you know, Mrs. Incredible can have a job, you know, it doesn't have to be Mr. Incredible working. And I thought that was really interesting in making a comment in the current times that we live in.
Yes, especially from Pixar.
Yeah, and where they're, you know, looking for a new head and nobody really knows if it's going to be male or female or what's going on there. So that's interesting. And then the whole, everybody's torn about supers. Some people think that supers should be allowed to be around and other people think, you know, supers cause problems. They should go away. You know, maybe we should build a wall for them. They didn't specifically say that, but you get where I'm going with that.
Yes.
And then, you know, overall, just the theme of it is kind of accepting people's differences. You know, these are people who have superpowers who were born this way. And, you know, this is obviously part of the first movie as well, but they were born this way. And, you know, you just got to accept people for who they are. And I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think one of the most like powerful parts in the movie is when they're talking at dinner. And I think Dash asks, you know, like, why do we have to like hide like who we are, like what we're doing? And Elastigirl, what's her real name? Not superhero.
Mrs. Incredible?
Mrs. Parr?
Mrs. Parr, yeah.
Mrs. Parr. Anyway,
yes,
she says she says, well, the, you know, like it's the law, so we have to follow it. And then Mr. Incredible, on the other hand, was like, well, you know, it's a stupid law, like we shouldn't have to follow it because like we are who we are and like we should like accept, you know, ourselves for that. And I was like, it's interesting that like they portrayed the couple as having like two different political viewpoints. Obviously, like they were literally talking about different laws, and I thought it was interesting that like I think in the end they were able to sort of come to a general consensus about what they both thought and like how they should teach their kids what they believed in and like how to stick up for like what you believed in. And I thought that was actually well done in that scene. Yeah,
I agree. Another moment that the one that kind of made me laugh out loud because I was like, whoa, man, you're making a statement here, was when at the end, when, you know, a bad person that we haven't mentioned yet because it's a twist in the story, but a bad person gets arrested, and I forget which character says it. I think it might be Mrs. Parr, but somebody says, oh, don't worry, she's rich. She won't get more than a slap on the wrist.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa.
It was Violet. Violet said that. I believe so. And I was like, that's so funny. Especially if they made it come from a kid too.
Yeah. I was like, wow, somebody has something they want to say here. So
yes.
It's kind of
I
cool.
thought that was so funny. And usually like I hate when like things are like politicized in movies, but it was done in a way that I thought it was like good in a sense. Like it really made no difference. I think it was well done is what I
I think if it's true and honest to the story, then like it's not a big deal. And I think in all of the cases I just mentioned, it seemed to be an organic part of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's when it's like super forced that it doesn't feel right, that it's a problem.
Out of place. Yeah.
But this was great. I really loved it.
I agree.
I definitely felt it was more politically charged than the first time around. Do you agree with that? I think the world was different back in 2004.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, you know, maybe going back and watching it again now, we would think differently than we did.
But we just watched it again. So
yeah, that's true. And I never thought anything of it negatively, at least.
Now, it was a very funny movie. There were quite a few laugh out loud moments for me. Overall, Dash's performance was one of the funniest. That kid's energy was through the roof, but not forced. It didn't feel inorganic or anything. I was just like, wow, this is a kid with a ton of energy. And when they discover their new house they're going to be living in for some time, and he's just running around hitting all the buttons, opening all the doors, you know, waterfalls start splashing around. He was so funny. I just loved him. Yes, and there was one scene where he was like running. I mean, obviously, like his superpower is that he can run super fast, but in this particular scene, he had been running for a long time and was out of breath. And like the voice that he had when he was out of breath, like he was still like energized and like had so much energy, but like you could tell like he had like just like run, but like he was out of breath. It was so funny. Like I loved him I loved his voice. I don't know who voices him, but I thought it was so funny. I was looking it up a minute ago. I had his name. I'll see if I can find it again. But I just love his hair, and I don't remember this being as prominent in the first one. Did you notice his hair is like always like back as if he'd been running, and it's just got this point in the back. It's like windblown hair, like constantly. That kind of made me laugh quite a bit. But the moment that made me like kind of embarrassingly laugh out loud in the theater because I mean, a spit take is always a funny moment, but when a spit take comes out of your nose, holy crap. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So Violet is, they're at a diner essentially, and Mr. Parr brings Violet to this diner because he knows that the boy that she likes is working there, and she's kind of caught off guard when she sees him, is drinking water, and then just has this like, holy crap spit take that comes out of her nose and goes everywhere and made me laugh so ridiculously hard. Like I just thought it was a great moment. Yeah. Oh, it was everywhere. She's so embarrassed too. It was funny. Yeah. The name of the voice actor for Dash was Huck Milner. I'm not familiar with Mr. Huck Milner, but apparently he's done voices in Lego stuff as well. So interesting. And a bit of voiceover. Was the funniest character to you not Jack Jack? Oh, Jack Jack was hilarious. I thought Jack Jack was like stole every scene that he was in. I thought he was so funny. I laughed. It wasn't even supposed to be funny. It just like random times, like when he gets super huge, just like crawls through a wall. Like that was hilarious to me. I don't know why. Just like the way he like is so funny. I mean, he's a baby, so he's adorable. So he automatically gets the adorable points. And then, on top of it, like just him discovering his powers and just kind of being a hot mess. And the whole scene with him and the raccoon was really funny, which we had seen. They showed that at the expo, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's the scene they showed us at the expo. And so, it was really fun to see him get his powers. And I mean, frankly, he's more powerful than anybody in the entire family, we find out, because everybody basically has one power. And Jack Jack has a ton of powers, which frankly, you could either spin off into a TV series where it's just him, or there's going to be another sequel. At least another short, because we had 2 Jack Jack shorts. Oh, did we? Yeah. Or at least one. At least one. It was released with the DVD of the first one. Okay, that's pretty cool. I think it's called Jack Jack Attack, actually. Yeah, he's a funny character. He's great. Now, some of the stuff that I love about it, first of all, Michael Giacchino's score is so good in these films. Yes, I was going to ask you, I didn't know if you thought that
the theme from the first one. I didn't know if you thought that was like as iconic as like it is in my head.
No, it's a
Because,
pretty
like,
iconic theme, and it does this perfect. Like when you hear it, even if you knew nothing about that musical score, when you hear that score, you're like, okay, superhero, I get that. And even more specifically, I get kind of a 70s superhero, which I think is not that it takes place in the 70s, but like they definitely have that style. Like the architecture in this film and such is very retro. And it definitely has like that old, 70s Batman TV series kind of sound to it. And I've always liked the score to The Incredibles. It's a really, really good score. And Michael Giacchino has gone on to do other things for Disney, like some of the Star Wars stuff. He took over from
he did,
John Williams. And your favorite, right?
Yeah, he did Inside Out as well.
Yeah. Bum, bum,
So good.
You love that. If you could only see the smile on Brandon's face right now, folks.
So good. I'm just looking at the Blu-ray cover right now.
What are some of your other favorite moments from the film, or anything really?
I liked the villain, and I know that it's really hard to talk about without getting into spoilers.
We can get into spoilers. We've warned people. Guys, we're going to spoil things here for you.
Okay. Because, like,
I think watch the movie. I mean, basically, everybody has seen the movie, as we can see by the numbers it did opening weekend.
For real. But I think that the villain is so much more dynamic in this one than the first. Because the first one, you find out that it ends up being the kid who had idolized Mr. Incredible, like, his entire life. And in this one, it's more of like one of those unknown villains that kind of comes out of nowhere. But the cool thing is, this villain sets up other people acting like the villain, and the way that it's done with the masks and like the hypnosis, I thought was so cool and like innovative. I would have never thought of that, like, to be like a Pixar villain or like a Disney villain. It's so not typical of like a Disney or Pixar villain. I think it's just different, and that's why I liked it so much.
Now, speaking of the hypnosis and such, did you hear, or I'm curious if you saw signs at your theater about people having seizures?
Yeah. So, well, no, I didn't see any signs, but I saw it on Twitter.
Okay.
And people were like, Disney needs to warn people that it has so much flashing. And I didn't really think about it, but looking back, I'm like, my goodness, it did actually flash quite a bit on the screen. Yeah,
I was at the theater the other night to see a different movie, and I saw signs hanging on the ticket windows and kiosks and such, and I saw it said Incredibles 2, and I kind of just assumed it said, it's sold out or whatever. And then as I looked closer, I'm like, oh my goodness, there are seizure warnings. It's just warning that there's a lot of strobing that happens on screen, and there is a lot of strobing. So if you haven't seen Incredibles 2 and you happen to have seizures when you see flashing lights, beware. Maybe in a movie theater is not the best place to see Incredibles 2.
Yeah, but I do know if you do have some sort of something that like makes you prone to seizures or something where you can't see flashing lights, if you get the it's for people who can't hear. It's like closed captioning that like sits in your cup holder essentially.
Okay.
And like reads you the closed captioning. It actually gives you a warning.
Oh.
It'll give you a visual warning that says like, I don't know. I have no idea what it says, but it's something along the lines of there's about to be a bunch of flashing lights on the screen. Like, look away if you can't see that.
I wonder if all theaters have that, or if whatever.
I know AMC has the capabilities to do it. I mean, like my theater does. But believe it or not, the AMC headquarters is my AMC. The CEO of AMC Theaters is here.
Really? In Kansas?
Yeah. So we have the flagship theater.
That's actually really cool. Is it like a really nice theater?
Yeah. And they have not a campus, but several buildings. And anyways, totally
like that.
Off subject.
When I come visit, I'm going to have to check that out. That's very cool.
It is cool, yeah.
So one thing I noticed in this film, and this may well exist in the original film, but you'd know better than I since you're such a diehard fan. That little logo for Edna Mode, that's like printed on the bag and stuff. Is that from the original film, or is that new for this one?
No, I think it's new for this. Like when she's walking out with like the like shopping bag with the logo on the side. I don't ever recall that being from the first one.
Okay.
But they've used it in so much marketing for the second one.
That logo is perfection. I love it's just her giant round glasses and then like the shape of her hair. Very minimalist, very cool. I love everything about it. I think it's a very, very cool Edna Mode logo there. Of course, we had to, and this was kind of the nice thing about having just seen the original Incredibles, was there were moments where, like, you know, they pull up to Edna Mode's house and you see like the laser fence and stuff. Like the second they're there, I'm like, oh, I know where they're going and stuff. But it was just kind of like, okay, I get where this is going. And of course, she had to bring that character back, an extremely popular character.
Yes,
from the first.
And it's voiced by Brad Bird, is it not?
Yep, the director and writer. Did he write the movie or just develop the story? I can't remember. I think he wrote it.
I think he wrote the first one for sure.
I think he's the writer-director of both, but don't quote me on that. But yes, he is the voice of Edna Mode, which is funny as well. And I just loved the fact that randomly thrown into this movie is a Jonny Quest animated TV show, which I'm not a Jonny Quest fan in particular, but I am a huge Hanna-Barbera fan. So I love that, like, there was a clip of an animated Hanna-Barbera cartoon in an animated Pixar movie. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. It's interesting you say that, like, you noticed, or like you knew immediately where we were going when you saw like the laser fence with like Edna's, like you knew we were going to her place. And it's interesting you say that, because I think if we were able to compare side by side from the first to the second, like when the first one came out, like there was no like really backgrounds. Like computer animation was still very flat in the sense that like you had your three-dimensional figures in front of you, but what was behind them was essentially just like a, you know, almost like a painted like still almost. And it was so interesting to me to see how much more detail they really added in the second one. And something that I noticed was the trees going up the hill to Edna's house. There's those square trees.
The square trees, which immediately made me think of Sleeping Beauty.
Me too. Yeah. But anyways, it was just so much cooler because like you could see the leaves and like they were swaying and shaking, which is like stupid little details. But I think just like comparing the first to the second, like all these recognizable places have just been like plussed. Yeah. I thought that was really, it was cool to see like how much we've progressed since the first one.
You know, it's interesting. And obviously, we're like nerds when it comes to this stuff, and so we notice stuff like that. But I don't think that that's something that like the general public would notice. And I think that that's a good thing, because basically, I think if you're in their position, you're like, okay, listen, the technology has gotten much, much greater than it was when we first started this. So we have to use that to our benefit. But we can't change it so much that it's going to look so different that people don't even recognize it anymore as being the same film. So it's like this really fine line that I think that they dance quite nicely with. And
I think they did a good job, because I feel like...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like they could have made the graphics like a lot better with a lot of the things, and I feel like they didn't. But like I don't even know how to explain it. It's stylized in a way that's still very much like the first, but just with new technology. But it's like it's the same like style. I don't even know how to explain it. It's the same style, but just like very much updated.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
And it's like very cool to me.
Impressed when they can make water look so good.
Yes.
And those waterfalls that were like, you know, in the house and stuff. Oh my God, the fountains, I guess I should call them more than waterfalls. But goodness gracious, they were beautiful. I was like, these look refreshing. Like, I just want to swim in it. They look so ridiculously good. Yeah. Now, obviously I am curious. There is a big story twist in this movie that I guess we don't have to specifically say what it is. But did you see it coming?
I did.
I did too.
And I don't know. I really don't know if it's just because I am looking for things in story like that, just because like I'm a dork, or if it was like really obvious.
Because it's become part of the formula for Disney and Pixar.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, when you're looking at a story like this, it's like, well, we don't have a main villain yet, but he or she is getting very close to this character, and like they're too good right now, so like we have to have a villain eventually. And then I think you kind of put two and two together, and you have no other options really.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt that way because it's definitely become quite a trend with them where, we're going to surprise people. And it's kind of become one of those things where like, you know what would surprise us if you didn't try and surprise us? You know, just tell a story. But it's fine. Like, it didn't bother me or anything, but it wasn't like a, oh my goodness moment or anything.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm trying to think, what was the Pixar movie what was the last Pixar movie that came out?
I feel like it was a sequel to something. It was Coco.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a sequel. It was brilliant. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Okay, never mind.
Remember me.
I was just gonna try and like compare it to like what they've been doing with like villains in the past.
Coco had a twist too at the end. I mean, we find out Ernesto de la Cruz isn't who we think he is.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I was gonna say Inside Out really doesn't have a villain. So
Inside Out, what would the twist be in Inside Out? Don't hate me, I don't even remember
like
how that movie really ended.
Bing Bong's death, I guess. I mean, she's fighting herself, like internally. Like it's so. Anyway,
it's like your favorite.
It's a whole nother episode, man.
I know you love it. Something I do want to say: if you do go see this movie, I would say sit through the credits, not because there is a little tag scene at the end, but just because, and I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, were these theme songs for each of the superheroes created for this movie, or was this something from the previous film?
Yeah, so it was created for this movie by a group called DePaoli, which is Disney's...
the Disney Acapella Group.
The Disney Acapella Group.
We were just talking about them on Disney Coast to Coast because my buddy Riley, who performed with Beauty and the Beast at the Hollywood Bowl, said that DeCapella opened the show there.
Okay.
And so they're the people that recorded the theme songs.
Well, they didn't write it, though. They recorded it. I can't remember. Somebody wrote it, and...
I saw Michael Giacchino's name attached to at least one of them as I was reading through the credits.
Yeah, but the other three, I think there's four, right? And
I think there were three. I think it was not Mr. Freeze, Frozone. Sorry. Frozone, Mr. Incredible, and... Elastigirl.
Okay.
Yeah, they all had theme songs. Who was the fourth? I don't remember another one.
I was wrong. There was three. You're right.
Okay. So yeah, they basically created, like, as if they were Saturday morning cartoons, they created theme songs for them. And I thought that was a really fun touch. So, it's only in the credits of the film, so I'd say stick around, listen to those. Plus, the credits are all, like, designed in a really cool, fun way. Yeah, but there isn't a tag at the end.
As I'm looking at what's it called? The soundtrack here on my phone, DeCapella recorded 4 tracks. That's why I thought that. And they just recorded... the Glory Days, just the theme, basically. Okay. They recorded it in acapella.
Cool. Well, yeah, fun stuff. What was some of your other favorite things about the film?
Some of the other things that I liked was the ending. I think the way that the first one ended in such a way that we expected a sequel. Like, we were like, we have to have a sequel because, like, they introduced a new villain in the last, 5 minutes of the movie? Mm-hmm. And so I think
Voiced by, do you know who voices that villain?
No.
The good luck charm for Pixar, John Ratzenberger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so his role in Incredibles and Incredibles 2 is the same character.
Huh.
One at the end, one at the beginning.
Yeah, so I think that the way that the first one ended, we were expecting a sequel. Like, we knew it was going to happen, just it was kind of a waiting game. But I think with this one, it was left kind of open-ended. So, like, there was no room for interpretation at the first one. Like, this is what happened, and this is what is currently happening in the world when you imagine it past the film. And I think in the second one, we were able to kind of have, free reign with, what we were thinking about what is happening past this. Are they fighting crime together? What are they doing together? Does she go back and go on that date again? I think there's more room for interpretation, and I really liked that the way that the second one ended and kind of wrapped everything up better than the first one, I believe.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to say about the film? Because I want to talk about the Incredicoaster for a minute, but only if you're done talking about the film.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you if you would rate it on a scale
I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was really, really good. It's once again, it's not a movie that I feel like, oh, I need to see that again anytime soon. And frankly, if there's an Incredibles 3, I would probably need to rewatch this one again. But it doesn't seem as forgettable to me as the first one, which I know is blasphemy. A lot of people love the first one, but it just wasn't memorable to me. This one I thought was really fun, really funny. Like, I laughed out loud quite a bit in the theater watching this.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, I would say like an 8.5 out of 10 is a pretty fair score. Maybe an 8 out of 10. I don't know. It's just, it still isn't in like my top Pixar movies. My top Pixar movies are
What is your top Pixar movie?
I always say,
I don't
like,
put you on the spot, but like
I always say Up. Up is so incredibly good. But once again, Up isn't one that I've gone back and revisited all that often either. But I do remember seeing that and like being really affected by it. I love Up. I love Finding Nemo. I really like Finding Dory even. I like the Toy Story movies. Like, those are all to me better than both Incredibles films. Whoa. Brandon is in shock.
Just said Finding Dory is better than The Incredibles.
Well, listen, we're not talking about cast. We're just talking about we're just talking about the story. I liked Finding Dory. Like, I remember seeing that. I really like that world that they live in. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a superhero guy. I like Spider-Man and I like Superman. And like, that's kind of it. It's just, other than that, I'm genetically missing whatever makes
you
that
like
exciting.
Tom Holland, not Spider-Man.
No. I liked Tom. Yes, I love Tom Holland, but I've liked Spider-Man since long before Tom Holland. Yeah. I've liked Spider-Man since the first Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
And have watched every single one of those films since. And to be honest, I actually like all of them for different reasons. I really like Tobey Maguire and his films. I really liked Andrew Garfield and his. And, Tom Holland is a blast as well. So
yeah,
I like Spider-Man and I like Superman. And then beyond that, I'm like, they're all people in tights, and some in capes. But we've learned what wearing capes will do, haven't we?
Yes. That's another thing I forgot about the first is I forgot.
Also, I think Coco is better than Incredibles 2. I think Coco's like on the top of the Pixar list.
Yeah, and I think I think visually it's it's
got music, musical numbers, which is always exciting for me. Like, the music of Coco, I think, is really, really wonderful.
Yeah, it's cool, especially for a Pixar movie.
Yeah. So, but what would you give it? What kind of rating would you give it?
Around there.
So is it in like your top 3 or what?
Yes.
So what are yours?
Inside Out.
That's like your number one ultimate, isn't it?
My number one. And not even just like Disney. Like, it's just like my number one movie. Like, when anyone's like, what's your favorite movie? I'm like, Inside Out. Like,
should we be a little worried about you? Do you connect a little too well to that film?
No, I just think it's so... Pete Docter, I like love that man. And like, if Pete Docter were to take over Pixar tomorrow, I would be so happy. Or Disney Animation. He's one of the co-founders of Pixar, so he would stay with Pixar. Anyways, I would be so happy if he had any sort of role like that in Pixar. I just think he's brilliant. I think the story's... I think at the time, it was like where there was really no villain. I think it was just so different. And at the time, it was the highest grossing animated movie.
Yeah.
Weekend.
It seems like whenever there's a new one, they're just going to beat their last record, is what it seems like.
Yeah, you're right.
But, we'll
The
see.
Good Dinosaur didn't.
I like Good Dinosaur. I do not hate that movie at all.
I don't hate it.
Hate that movie. I don't hate it at all.
I think it's beautiful.
First of all, it's beautiful. Second of all, dinosaurs.
Yes, that's true.
Third of all, like, it has some really sweet, cute moments. I think it's a great movie. But in any case, my least favorite Pixar movie...
Oh boy,
would probably have to be but to be fair, I haven't seen it in a really long time. But A Bug's Life didn't do it for me.
Really?
Yeah, that didn't do it for me. And another one that people love that just didn't do it for me was WALL-E.
Really?
I'm not a huge WALL-E fan. I'd have to go back and see it again because, once again, pretty forgettable in my mind.
That's interesting.
In any case, Incredibles 2. Incredibles 2, pretty incredible. By the way, phenomenal voice performance by Bob Odenkirk, who folks know from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. He was wonderful. The second he was on screen, I'm like, I know that voice. Yeah. And I thought he was great. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Incredicoaster for a second, which, of course, is opening at Pixar Pier any day now. And the reason I want to mention it is because a lot of the story that is part of Incredicoaster is actually discovered and first brought up in Incredibles 2 because we have, Jack's laser eyes being used in Incredicoaster, which before this film we hadn't seen, correct?
Yeah, this is the first time. Does
he use his laser eyes in the first movie at all?
I don't remember what he uses. And we also see one more power that he has in the short film as well. So I don't remember what was carried over and what was new. But anyways, it's the first time that
the laser eyes were a big part.
Explore it.
Okay. I felt like the laser eyes were a really big part of Incredibles 2. Also, the whole cookie thing, like the whole story with Incredicoaster is they're trying to get him back by the use of these cookies that he loves, and that was a really big story point in Incredibles 2, which I don't necessarily remember from the other film.
Nom noms.
Or shorts. And then also the introduction of Edna Mode as a babysitter is something
what the heck?
That we learn about in this film. Yeah.
Yes. I loved that. I loved that they threw that in there. Auntie Edna.
To be a little fair, the Edna Mode stuff felt a little bit like, okay, we have to bring her back because people love her so much, and we're not 100% sure where to put her. Like, it felt like she could have easily not been in this movie, and it wouldn't have affected the movie all that much. It did feel a little slightly forced, but it didn't bother me. If that makes sense.
I guess she did make the suit for Jack that extinguishes him, and you can, but that, I guess that's all.
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty huge story point. I don't know, the whole. Yeah, it definitely felt a little bit like we've got to bring back this favorite character. We have to figure out how to do it.
I agree.
So, anyway, that's gonna do it for me and Incredibles 2. Anything else you want to add before we head on to some trivia?
No, the Incredicoaster. If you've seen the sign for the Incredicoaster on Twitter, they called the family the Incredibles family, not the Parr family. And there is literally a typo in the Incredicoaster sign. Just thought I would throw that out there in case you were wondering. Parks? Yep. In case you're wondering what the budget was for Incredicoaster, there you go.
All right. Well, I think that means it's trivia time. Alrighty, Brandon, do you want to hit me with the trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
You hit me.
Okay. As we mentioned before, Edna Mode is performed by the film's director, Brad Bird. But I'm curious, do you happen to know what nationality Edna Mode is?
Oh my
This is according to Pixar Wiki and Disney Wiki. I'll give you a hint. She's actually two nationalities. Do you know what nationalities Edna Mode is?
God.
And I mentioned this for a specific reason.
Doesn't she do stuff like in Milan? I don't know what nationality that is.
She is half Japanese and half German.
What?
And the reason that I mention this is because I cannot believe in this hypersensitive time that we live in, and I'm not saying that this offends me, but in this hypersensitive time we live in, I cannot believe that people aren't offended by the stereotype that Edna Mode is when it's a white man performing this. I cannot believe that this is such an iconic Disney character at this point. It makes me laugh considerably. Yes, she's half Japanese and half German.
I didn't know that.
And every Japanese and German stereotype that there is, I feel like we see in Edna Mode. So I find that quite funny.
That's true. I didn't even think. I mean, it never crossed my mind like what her accent is or anything. But now that you say that, I'm never going to be able to unhear that.
Yeah, it's funny, terribly racist. This is gonna be like the Song of the South of the future.
Oh God.
all of a sudden they're going to just remove them. By the way, I just want to, I'm going off on another tangent here for a second, but I was speaking of Song of the South. So we're heading into a time of digital downloads for movies and such, and that seems to be the way that we're getting our stuff now. It's no more buying a DVD or buying a Blu-ray. It's buying a digital download, which essentially means, as far as I know, I could be wrong about this, I don't know the science behind it, but if a company really wanted, they could delete that at any point or re-edit it at any point. Like, we don't really own it, right? But with a DVD, if Song of the South did exist on DVD and it was pulled from store shelves, we would still own the DVD.
Right.
But with a digital download in Movies Anywhere, say that that's the only place we had our Song of the South, and the company was like, you know what? We don't want people seeing that anymore. We're just going to delete that. That is not okay anymore. This is something I've been concerned about recently as I'm becoming, more and more of a downloader more than a actual disc buyer.
I mean, the thing is, if you had to download it first, they couldn't delete that not physical.
It's living in Movies Anywhere, though. Like, who really has control over Movies Anywhere? Like, I don't know. Like I said, maybe they can't just do that. But I do feel like that's something that could potentially be done if they wanted to do it. And on top of that, like, or if they just wanted to be like, you know what, we want to, there's a little bit of an erection in The Little Mermaid. Let's just edit that out of there and fix that, and nobody will notice. But it's like, no, don't tamper with what I bought. And like I said, I could be totally just paranoid about this, but I've just been thinking about it recently.
I mean, like, they couldn't take it away from you, but as far as editing, I mean, like, once you've bought it, there's no way. I mean, there's got to be a law that
I think if they, I don't know. I think they.
I mean, unless they gave you a refund or something, like issued like a credit, I suppose.
But still,
but as far as editing goes, that's a good point.
I think it's something interesting that I haven't really heard anybody talking about, but I've thought about recently, and I just think it's something to consider because, like I said, if you own the disc, you own the disc, and that's it. Like, it's never gonna. Right. You're always going to have that. But with this whole, like, living in the digital world, in fact, I recently read an article about, like, iTunes, apparently the direction they're heading is getting rid of, like, album downloads, and it's just going to be streaming in the future. Like
Apple Music.
Which I don't like. I'm like, no, I want to at least own the download. Anyway, this is a weird tangent that we've gone off on. It just made me think of it because, like... this whole Edna Mode thing, like, I'm not kidding when I say, like, 30 years from now, I would not be surprised if people are, like, looking back at those folks in 2018, how insensitive they were and all that stuff. And, if Disney was like, we're going to go in and redub that voice so that it's not as offensive. Right. And they kind of could if all that existed was digital downloads of it. I'm sorry. As I said, tangent went off on a weird place, but sometimes it just needs to say what I'm thinking.
So.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your trivia question for me?
So, at the end, this is about the first movie.
Okay.
So, at the end of Incredibles 1, during the credits, there are those graphics that are playing behind the names, or like next to the names, that are kind of like dancing around.
Okay.
Do you know what those graphics originally were?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I don't remember graphic. What are they now?
So, they look like silhouettes of like pointy versions of the characters, like
and they were originally something different.
Yeah, so
related to the film.
The reason that they're in, like, the reason that they exist, like, in that style is because of something. I don't know if you've heard this.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. What is it?
Okay, so they're actually 2D cell animation mock-ups that Brad Bird had created when he worked at Warner Brothers. To, like, as just his idea for The Incredibles. So, at the end of the first film, when you're sitting through the credits and seeing, like, here's the first scene, and the characters are, like, pointy, like, they look pointy, and they're, like, moving around, like, very, like, stiffly and, like, weird. Those are the original, like, mock-ups that he made of the scenes when he was, like, pitching the idea of the film.
Huh. That's interesting.
I thought that was super interesting, and they've copied it into the second one. I mean, of course, they've changed it to fit the second movie.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, and when I was like
so he tried
researching
to pitch this to Warner Brothers. That's interesting.
Yeah, and he was mad at Warner Brothers because they didn't promote The Iron Giant like he wanted them to.
Iron Giant is a great animated movie.
I agree. And I think it would have done better had it had more promo.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that he was still mad at. And I didn't know this either. In 1995, Pixar tried to get him to help on A Bug's Life, and he declined. And then later came back to the studio with those cell animations for The Incredibles. And that's how The Incredibles came to Pixar.
Very interesting.
All in the credits.
I like it. I like it. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on to this episode of Disney Coast to Coast to talk about Incredibles 2. Why don't you tell folks where they can find you?
I am the happiest blog on earth. You can follow me on Twitter at the happiest blog, or just go to thehappiestblog.com.
Don't you mean .net?
No, thehappiestblog.com.
You changed it?
No, I just own all of them.
Oh, okay.
And it's just easier for people. You can go to thehappiestblog.com, thehappiestblog.net, thehappiestblogonearth.net.
It's like the DisneyCoastToCoast.com. You can do it with a Z or an S, and you'll get to the right place.
And if you shorten that and abbreviate it almost any way you want, you'll probably end up on my website.
There you go, thehappiestblog.com. That's where you can go see everything happy in the world of Disney. Folks, I do want to remind you, all of our social media for Disney Coast to Coast can be found over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com, as well as, don't forget, every month there's a brand new music playlist that we create for your enjoyment. Make sure you sign up for that over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. Just click on playlists there. Of course, there's the Twitter poll every Thursday. Make sure you're following us there. Daily Disney Decision every single day on Instagram. Stuff in our Instagram story. Leave those iTunes ratings and reviews. Everything you need is over at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. But for now, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for watching Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePaoli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.